The Amalgamated Clothing Workers Union was a central core organizing this very large housing project. The amalgamated houses in the Bronx. I think the population was 90% Jewish and upwardly mobile people, either first generation or second generation Americans. There was no need for parents to encourage children to get an education. It was the community, the setting, where everybody assumed that the kids, their children, would get the maximum education that they could. And in my days, that meant free education. College, City College, and the whole university system was free. It was $2 a year to go to one of the best colleges in the United States. At the butcher shop, Haft's Meat Market, where my grandfather and my father and one of his brothers was there for their entire lives. It was on Kingsbridge Road, so it was a very busy commercial area in the Bronx. It was a reasonably large, exclusively meat market. Once the large supermarkets opened up, when I was about 15 or so, that declined and things got tougher. I grew up as an urban kid in a sort of depression atmosphere. Typical day in 1945. I'm in high school now. The first thing you do is you take the bus, a 10-cent bus, a city bus, from the amalgamated houses for about 20 minutes till you get to the Bronx High School of Science. The day ends at Bronx Science at 3:30 or so. Sometimes you're in an after-school thing like the swim club or whatever. And then you take the bus back, and then you're playing with your friends. We wouldn't have play dates at any time from the age of 5 till 17 or 18, or where you'd go and see one person. We'd just all go out in masses across the street into the park, and we would just play until our mothers yelled out the window, which was the Bronx communication system, to come home for dinner. My father was a very, very quiet man and quite shy, and in social interactions, when I observed him when I was young, he would be the quietest one. I think my mother was more intelligent. I think she was sharper and certainly far more articulate. She was the total extrovert, head of the Parents Association, and when I went to public school, organized a lot of groups, set up the public library that was in our housing complex, and was reaching out all the time, had lots of friends. So that was the difference. And my father, of course, was a hard-working butcher, so he'd come home, he'd work 6 days a week, come home tired as all get out. He was not much of a presence. He took me to a few ball games and so on, but it was because he worked so hard. Yankee Stadium is a place that I went to a lot, and mainly with my friends. We would simply walk to the subway, and you could go then for $5, get a great seat. The bleachers were about $1. So we'd go, a whole group of us, to Yankee games. The New York Yankees, when I was young, sort of monopolized baseball. That is, they won every American League pennant. They won almost every World Series. A lot of World Series were Subway Series, where the Yankees would either play the Brooklyn Dodgers or the New York Giants. The game that I remember the most was one that my father took me to. He took me to a World Series game at Yankee Stadium.
In the sixth inning, Reese connects for a single to left, scoring Bankhead and Stanky for the Dodgers' 7th and 8th runs of the game.
There was a huge shot that was going to clear the center field, which is very deep in the old Yankee Stadium.
With Brooklyn leading now 8-5, Joe DiMaggio comes coming to bat in the last half of the sixth inning. He swings, sends a tremendous drive to left with 2 men on. Looks like a game-tying homer, but Al Gianfrido gets it with a great World Series catch, and DiMaggio bemoans his fate as the Dodgers go on to win 8-6, tying the series at 3 games all.
And a guy by the name of Gianfrido caught the ball. It was the most amazing catch I've ever seen. It was Joe DiMaggio that I saw, Lou Gehrig, Whitey Ford as a pitcher. Then on other teams, Ted Williams, I saw him a lot, and the Yankees had what they called the Williams shift, because they knew Williams hit only one side of the field most of his 400 batting average time. So they'd shift outfielders. The infield would have a different configuration when he got. I saw Bob Feller pitch. So I saw all the great American League pitchers of those days. Well, most of them able-bodied males were in the Army or the Navy, and we saw these, half-baked players, but it was fun to go during the war years. When Pearl Harbor occurred, I was 11 years old. The war was over when I was 15. So it was really the core of my pre-teen and teenage years. All of the older brothers of my friends were all in service, and I knew all of them because we had a very tight-knit community in Amalgamated. And when one of them was killed, and a number of them were, that was something that really, really impacted, not the headline news, but that Donnie's brother, who used to play stickball here, was killed in Germany. Then the other things that I remember was what we did as kids. We'd plant victory gardens. That is, everybody would plant vegetables, edible vegetables, the kids. And we would actually eat that, water it, take care of it. So that was something we were involved in. And then we had the Junior Civilian Air Patrol. We each, at the age of 13, 1943, when we thought the Germans might come over with planes, we memorized, learned, and studied the shadows and outlines on cars of all the airplanes. The war dominated everything. Our games, our bubble gum that we'd buy, they had baseball cards, and a lot of them we got those. And then we had Japanese war atrocity cards, which in color would show a Japanese soldier with practically fangs and a knife tearing a Chinese civilian apart with the knife or something. So we had a lot of that good old propaganda then. I signed up for the Marine Corps in order to get the deferment to finish law school, because they were calling up people right and left. This was during the Korean War. And I applied to be a Marine Corps line officer after graduation. I went through the Marine Corps physical exam and was accepted. Then I got a notice in my third year of law school to appear for an Army physical. And I called the Marine Corps. They said, no, you have to take that. You have to go through it. You got to know. So I went down there, and the guy in front of me was making all sorts of claims. He had pains here, there, and everywhere. And he, at the end of the line, was stamped there, accepted. I went through not saying anything and go to the end, and somebody says, one of the guys at the end that has the stamp, he says, is Haft still here? I said, that's me. He says, you have got to go back to the tuberculosis x-ray doctor for another x-ray. Oh my God, I got tuberculosis. So anyway, he took the x-ray, and he and 2 other doctors looked at it and said, he's got a spinal coverage, and it is just about 1/4 of an inch too much. We have to give him 4F. And they told me they rated me 4F because the Army, the government didn't want to pay for all the back pains that I would get throughout my life. I was, however, in the active Army Reserve. We went to camp, basic training for 2 weeks every summer for 3 years. That also was during law school before I joined the Marine Corps, and that was a joke. We were a bunch of sad sacks.